Hello, everybody. This is Anita Foust. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to give you some really good information to prevent you from either going blind or dying due to medical errors. So tune in to this channel. This particular session is called Healing Advocate. I want to teach everyone to realize that they have options. And if you have one doctor, you have no doctor. Absolutely. So if you have one, you have none. Listen to what I have to say. It is very important for you to understand, for you to protect yourself or your loved ones. You have to become an advocate, or someone in your family or friends, your circle, has to be an advocate. It would be a great idea if everybody was an advocate in your circle. The reason I'm saying that is a recent happening that happened to me was I was told by my doctor to go see another doctor who could perform a certain test. So it was my glaucoma specialist who sent me to my retina specialist. Now, I am not blind because of my glaucoma. I am blind because someone didn't care enough to do the right thing. So I was misdiagnosed and my eyesight could have been saved. As a matter of fact, I was told I would never see again, but I have been working on myself, trying to get my eyesight back. Now it was completely gone and now it's back some, but not well enough for me to see text, not well enough for me to be able to drive a car. So you can imagine how negatively my life was impacted. And I don't want it to happen to you or your loved ones. There are things that you need to know, and you need to go see your doctor at least once a year. And you have to have the right doctor. You have to have a caring, kind, and qualified doctor. Okay. So, of course, my vision is an issue, and it causes a whole lot of other problems as a result. But misdiagnosis is something that can happen either from carelessness or just the people are not qualified. So, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get out your pencil and your paper or however you take notes, and I want you to write this down. According to a Johns Hopkins study, the top 3 killers in the United States is number 1, cardiovascular disease. So if you have hypertension, heart, any kind of heart problems or blood pressure problems, that's number 1. Number 2 is cancer. I know a lot of people are surprised it's not cancer being number 1, but no, it is not cancer. Cancer is number 2. And surprise, surprise, guess what the number 3 killer in the United States is? Medical errors. Yes. So we want to avoid medical errors, just like we want to avoid all 3. But medical errors, you may have more control over. It all depends. So first of all, let me give you a little bit of my story. I don't want to take a whole lot of time up. So for 13 years, a little over 13 years, I would say 13 years and 2 months, I have been searching, trying to find out why I went blind. And I found out this year in May 2025. Today is September 24th, 2025. So a few months ago, I finally found out what had happened. What had happened was, as one of my friends like to say, is that I had a vascular problem. What's the number 1 killer in America? Cardiovascular disease. When I went blind the second time, I went blind like twice in one week or 2. And all that time, what it was, I was having something that they call an eye stroke. It's a huge name for it. I can't think of it. I think it's central retina artery occlusion, CRAO. I think that's what it's called. But in shorthand, an eye stroke. So the first one was a warning. I went to an unqualified doctor. I went to the eye center in my city, and the eye doctor that I was trying to see, who was new for me, he wasn't there. And there was someone who must have been a fellow or a medical student or something. And that's how I became misdiagnosed. I was not referred to anybody. This person thought he knew. I thought he knew too. And this is the thing that you have to understand. There are different levels, just like when you go to any university or even, high school. People graduate at different levels. And I'm not saying that the person didn't graduate at the top of his class. He may have, but he did not qualify for what was happening to me. And you're not going to know. You're going to have to be the CEO of your wellness team, even if you don't even know. By me going to the eye center in my city, I thought I was going to see my doctor. I had no clue he was out of town and at a conference, etc. So I had to deal with who was there. And I didn't have enough, I don't know, savvy to say, no, I don't think what you're saying is true. Let me see someone that you report to. Because I was having an eye stroke. It didn't even cross his mind. He started talking about floaters. And he wasn't even qualified to even talk about floaters because that's in the retina department. One thing I want you to know is that you have got to know all of these different types of doctors. I teach all of that in my coaching, my group coaching classes. This is something that you can do on your own. But I have the information based upon my experience and my research. So anyway, long story short, when I went to the emergency room, when I had my second eye stroke, I guess, I don't know, finally, when I was seen by a doctor, the emergency room was the worst place to go, but it was on the weekend, so the eye center was closed. But if I had another doctor, I would have been able to drive to another state as long as it took for me to be in that emergency room. But I didn't think about options. I didn't know. So there's a hospital in Pennsylvania that specializes in eyes. I didn't know. And I stayed in that emergency room for about 8 hours. I could have, from North Carolina to Pennsylvania, it would not have taken that long to have been driven there. It's a long story. Long story short, though, about that particular time, I had a really good doctor in the emergency room. And he says, we're going to admit you to the hospital because you could be having a heart issue, something that could kill you. But because I didn't have a qualified doctor, I didn't have anyone I could depend on. So I want to teach you about having a really good primary care physician. I didn't have one at that time, but we'll talk about that another time. What I want you to do right now is to know this. When you are referred to another doctor, I'm trying to stay on track, y'all. I got so much to tell you. When you're referred to another doctor, you need to get a copy of the documentation that was sent to that doctor you're going to. About a month or so ago, my glaucoma specialist, having discussed with me the fact that I have this vascular disorder that's very rare, and it's called fibromuscular dysplasia, FMD for short. I also have another one called, and that's in my right carotid artery, right? And that is where your blood would go to your eyes and your brain. But the way that my blood vessels are constricting is preventing the blood from going to my eyes and my brain like they should. And that's the reason why I cannot see. And that's the reason why I was diagnosed with glaucoma, because of this pressure, this blood problem that I have, this vascular problem. And then on my left side, I have narrowed left subclavian artery. Both of these go to your eyes and your brain. So all these years I've been looking for the eye problem, which it actually was a vascular problem. And the doctor in the emergency room figured that, but because I didn't have a qualified doctor, and politics being what they are everywhere, including the hospital, that never was focused on. That never was focused on. So they kept telling me over and over again, you need to get you a primary care physician. It took me years to find a good one. It took me years. I'll tell you about that search eventually. Let me get back on track. So now that we found out what the root of the problem is that it's really not primary glaucoma. That's what they call it when they don't know why you have glaucoma. No one in my family has glaucoma. No one in my family has gone blind. So this could happen to anybody, right, who has any kind of vascular problem affecting their neck, which goes to their eyes and their head. So he's a good doctor. He's qualified, but he's not a retina specialist. And so he referred me to a retina specialist. Now, he knows I'm very suspicious after all what I've been through. And so he made me feel comfortable. He said, somebody I know, I'm sending you to him. Well, He doesn't know him that good, okay? Not that well. So we went to see this doctor because, I have to be driven everywhere. I cannot drive myself anymore. All that stopped in 2012. And I kept saying to the different technicians that were doing things, you have to see all these people before you ever see the doctor, right? I kept saying, I need to get this dye test. I need to get the dye test because I couldn't think of the name of it. I'm sure they knew what I was talking about. The name of the test that I was supposed to go get was a fluorescein angiogram. I think I'm saying that right. A fluorescein angiogram. And for shorthand, I'm just going to call it an FA. And so I kept saying to everybody, I'm supposed to get this. And they were like shaking their head like, I'm an old lady to them, right? So I'm confused, probably. That's probably what they were thinking. So the first lady said, no, I don't see that. And then the second lady, where I would have gotten the FA, the fluorescein angiogram, she actually got up and went to the doctor and probably said she's saying she needs to get a dye test. And she came back, she said no. So instead, I have something called the OCT. I can't remember what OCT represents. But the OCT is also an eye test, but it doesn't use dye and it doesn't check the blood flow in your eye. My doctor, the glaucoma doctor, realized that he needs to find out about my blood flow in my eyes, because my thing is this: if my blood flow stops in my eyes, not only will I go blind, won't I also have to have my eyes removed, because they'll die without blood and oxygen, right? And also, a lot of people may not realize this, that some people have been misdiagnosed with dementia, when in reality it could be something else, including the fact that they're not getting enough oxygen and blood to their brain. If you're not getting enough blood, you're not getting enough oxygen, because the oxygen is in your blood. So if you have any family members who have been diagnosed with dementia, or they seem to be a little hazy or whatever, it could be this, right? All right, so let me get back on track. So I received an OCT. And the OCT, what it does, it looks at the different layers of your eyes, but not your blood, right? Not your blood flowing through your eyes. And so, I was just really disappointed, disgusted, and thinking how much time I had wasted and the money that I had spent. And also, this was not helping my problem. I'm trying to solve a problem and get my eyesight back. So the doctor comes in, he leaves the door open. How are we going to have a private conversation if you're leaving the door open? So my husband, of course, had to be with me at the doctor's appointment. And so he asked the doctor, do you want me, him, my husband, to close the door? So then the doctor goes over and he shuts the door, rather than getting my husband's got all my junk, my briefcase and everything. So he comes back in the room, comes back and sits down, and he doesn't face me. He's facing my husband. I've never had that to happen to me. Never. Even when I was totally blind, I've never had a doctor come into a room and not face me and talk to me about me. So he faced my husband and talked to my husband. Now, my husband knows me, so, he's sitting over there being quiet. He's sitting over there being quiet because he knows what's going to happen. He knows that I'm watching this man, and evidently this man thought I was totally blind. And even if I was totally blind, disrespectful, rude, terrible bedside manner. So he said everything, and my husband just sitting there listening. And then he asked this question, the doctor did: do you all have any questions? And he was facing my husband. And I said, I have a question. And then he turned around and talked to me. I said, I was supposed to get the dye test. Why didn't I get the dye test? Oh no. In so many words, I make the decisions, and you just need the OCT and this, that, and there's nothing that can be done, and this and that and other. Now, I didn't come to him for him to give me his opinion about whether something could be done, because an opinion, everybody has one, right? And not only that, if you have one, you have none. So I'm not going to just go to one doctor. Now, all my doctors know I travel up and down the East Coast looking for good advice, bad advice, new idea, new technology, whatever, trying to get my eyesight back. So that's why, I call this segment Travel to Heal, right? Travel to Heal. Because I'm traveling, trying to find a way to heal my eyes. So anyway, he and I, we don't really get into it, but one of the things that I teach is to ask, what's the plan? And he told me there was no plan. hmm So he thought that I was going to stop there. Because if you got what? One, you've got none. So what I'm saying to you is, I have another appointment with another retina doctor. And I did my research. I did not depend on my referring. See, that's the second time, which is very critical for you to understand, is that doctors think that they know the other doctors. And you think because that doctor knows the other doctor that they are similar in the caring, kindness, and qualifications department. And that could be wrong. In my case, that has been wrong. And I really don't want it to be wrong ever again. So I did my research. If you only knew how much I learned from doing that doctor was so wrong. That retina specialist was so wrong. My glaucoma doctor was so right. The the FA checks the blood flow in your eye. They can map your FA test to something that we call the Humphreys visual field, HVF. When I go in to see my glaucoma doctor, he has this, I call it the flashing light. Most of the time, I don't even call tests what they're supposed to be called. I call it the flashing light. They know what you're talking about, but it's called the Humphreys visual field. And what happens is they put a patch over one eye and try to see. In my case, my right eye is so far gone, they still put a patch over it. But, I really can't see anything out of it much. But in my left eye, there's this flash, and you're supposed to hit a button every time you see a flash. And then there's a pattern that's drawn on a piece of paper where it shows where you can see. And they call that your visual field. And so I always tell doctors, and they humor me. They think, oh, poor little old lady. I always tell them, I'm not blind because of glaucoma. I'm blind because of, in this case, an eye stroke. That's what I'm blind for. Oh, well, it's just so long and da-da-da-da. There's nothing that can be done. Not according to my research, not according to the articles, the peer-reviewed articles I've read. So basically, this is so amazing to me, y'all. I mean, maybe you won't get excited about it, but I'm excited about it. And if you have some friends that have glaucoma or whatever, they should know this too. They can map, they being some scientists or some doctors or whoever it is, I'm going to hunt them down and get them to help me. They can map the FA results, which determines where the blood vessels have died, where the blood vessels are still working, where some blood vessels may not need to be there because they have just grown out of nowhere and could be causing some other problems, or blood vessels that are bleeding. I've actually had eye bleeds, and I would go see a doctor, and he was like, I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it. Huh? Anyway, different. Let me stay on track. I've heard it all. But the retina professionals actually can do something about it. You just got to go to the right doctor. So they can map them. And then what they do when they map it, I hope you can see my hands. When they map it, they can determine where it is that you can't see because of the stroke and where you can't see because of the glaucoma, your eye pressure. That's a big deal. That's a big deal because the blood vessels can be treated. Maybe not the eye pressure. You try to get it below a certain amount. Right now my doctor would click his heels and mine would stay within 13, 15. When it gets over to anything above 15, he gets antsy and worried. But the thing is, it could be my blood vessels causing that reading. That's important because then that way a retina specialist who is what? Caring, kind, and qualified could help improve my eyesight because they have some kind of medicine that they can use with your blood vessels in your eyes to improve the situation. That's the way I'm going to put it because, I'm not a doctor. I'm just reading what the doctors have written. And I'm excited about it. This is something that is going to be able to open up some doors for me to determine what kind of treatment that will be good for me. So if you have one doctor, you have no doctor. So when I went to see that retina specialist that my glaucoma specialist sent me to, that meant I had no doctor, right? So hopefully this next doctor is going to be much better than the one I saw a few weeks ago. And what I'm doing to help the situation out is that I'm asking my glaucoma specialist to give me a copy of everything that is sent to this doctor. And then on top of that, I did all of this research. Before I went blind, y'all, I was headed to law school, and I also was headed to get my PhD in psychology. I wanted to do community psychology, right? And I had been an advocate ever since I was a child, helping to integrate the school systems where I live. So I've been in the battle for a long time, and I really want to retire. But things happen. Right now, I'm advocating for wellness. And so I guess advocating never stops. It just may have changed addresses. So what I'm saying to you now, hopefully you took notes, is that you have to have more than one doctor. You have to have more than one, in my case, more than one glaucoma specialist. I feel very happy with the glaucoma specialist that I found in town, but I still go see a glaucoma specialist in another state. Why do you do that, Anita? Well, from that bad experience that I had, and not only that, there are different levels of, what do they call that? Different levels of care, different levels of quality of care, depending on what part of the United States that you live in. Just imagine if those hospitals that are closing now, they may have not had the best care. They were, they were places where people could get some care. There are some hospitals that are number one, number two, number three in the United States. The number one eye hospital, I think it's called Bascom. It's two different words, but I can't remember anything but the Bascom part. That's in Miami, Florida. I've not gone to Miami, Florida, but I have some doctors who did some training down in Miami, Florida. Then the number two place is in Philadelphia. It's called Wills Eye Hospital. So I've been there. And the number three in the United States is in Baltimore, Maryland, and it is called the Women Eye Institute. So those are the number one and number two, number three hospitals. But then within those hospitals, you have to find the right fit for you. If you have someone who is uncaring, unkind, and qualified at these top three hospitals, it's still not going to do you any good. So where I live locally, I finally found my optometrist. I think that's the right word. My optometrist said, look, you have to have someone that we can go to in case of an emergency where you live. And so she recommended somebody. And, I had sworn off that hospital because I was allowed to go blind. And so she sent me over there, and he was the right fit. He was the right fit. He's very patient because someone like me who has been mistreated and now has lost her vision, my dream of becoming an attorney and a psychologist, they're gone. And that's why I chose to become a wellness coach, which a lot of people might think, oh, what's a wellness coach? So what I teach is 9 dimensions of wellness, which includes environmental. I have been working with a community where I had put a wellness center physically in a countryside so that people like me who are, visually challenged can go and be in a wellness situation, exercising, getting massages and things like that, sunk all that money in, and then the next thing I know, there's an asphalt cement plant coming. And do you know chemicals can cause you to have hypertension? Check out where you live. I'm not going to go any further because I'll go straight into all the 9 dimensions of wellness and the different programs that I have. But I hope that this has been a really good transformation for you to get information about. Just having one doctor is not good. Different parts of the country have different levels of competency. If you ever read anything about the law, if anything happens as far as medical malpractice or neglect or something like that, the first question is beyond the fact that you have to, in North Carolina, you have to hire a, a specialist, a doctor, before you can file the lawsuit who agrees that it was malpractice or whatever. That's a huge place to go because it costs a lot of money. It costs thousands of dollars to be able to have someone to come to court to testify on your behalf. And if you sit there in court all day long, they're on the clock. You're still spending money, whether they're talking or not. You got to pay their way to come. So what my job is to teach you how to avoid all of that. You don't want to have any malpractice. You want to stay well. You want to stay healthy, and you want to be able to see. And the way you do that, you have to have more than one doctor. And if you ever read the literature in the law books or any kind of information like that, it's different levels. Standard of care. That's what they call it. Look it up. Standard of care. There are different levels of standard of care depending on, and that's the question after you get past filing the lawsuit is, was this the standard of care in your community? You know, for you to go in blind and you tell this guy that you're blind and they say, oh, it was floaters. And then that person is a glaucoma fellow and he doesn't refer you to a retina because he thinks he's qualified. Never, ever, ever take one person's opinion. This is so important. So important. The standard of care. Look up what the standard of care is for whatever you have. If you have hypertension, what's the standard of care? What do you need to do? So anyway, long story short, I better get off of here. I've talked to you for too long. I don't want to hold you too long, but I get so excited talking about this. I'm really passionate about it. I don't want you to think I'm angry about it. I just wanted you to know, I want you not to, or any of your loved ones, to have the same problem that I have had because someone misdiagnosed me, put in my medical records that I was pretending to be blind, and basically blocked me from getting any help. And my little innocent self, it took me 4 years to get angry enough to say, I've got to find out what's happening. And I still didn't find out until 13 years and some months later. I don't want that to happen to you. So keep tuning in. I will give you more information. But remember, if you only have one doctor, you have no doctor. Always have two in two different areas. Don't stay in your same location because, politics are politics. You need to go to another hospital that is at least 1, 2, or 3 rated. And even then, go to one of those. They are not in the same city. They're not in the same state. I'll tell you more about that later. But remember, some people cover for each other. So if you're outside of their jurisdiction, you're going to get better information. Okay, well, this is Anita Foust. I hope that this was very good information for somebody out there. I hope you learned something. Come to anitafoust.com. I have a free gift for you. There's a checklist for showing you what to do to prepare to go to the doctor's appointment. Different things that you can do. It's absolutely free. Just go ahead to anitafoust.com, ANITAFOUST, not an A, FOUST.com. And it's on the first page of the website, and just click on the button for the free checklist. Okay, well, I hope I helped someone. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.